Welcome to the very latest edition of the Premier View Tipperary GAA podcast. Don't forget to give us a follow if you haven't done so already on Twitter. We are at Premier View Pod. On Facebook, our page is the Premier View Podcast, and on Instagram, where we are Premier View Podcast. We have up-to-the-minute news on all things Tip GAA across all our socials, plus the odd giveaway, so don't miss out. If you're a Spotify listener, don't forget to hit follow and also hit the bell so that you never miss a podcast episode.
Hello and welcome to the Premier View podcast episode number 105. It's a bumper edition today after a cracking game up in Thurles. Tipperary and Limerick played out an exhilarating draw, 1 point apiece, puts Tipperary on the edge of qualification for a Munster final, puts Limerick in a much trickier position with a must-win game versus Cork this coming weekend. We've got a packed panel and a lot to discuss, be it from Rhys Shelley's debut clean sheet to more Noel McGrath magic, Brian O'Mara making his mark in midfield or in centre back, and our own yellow helmets of Keoghan Morris showing up to make an impact on the biggest day in championship. Right, lads, Stephen, I'll go to you first. What a cracking game to witness up in Semple this Sunday. Pleasure to be at, pleasure to see the square, absolutely crowds. I think everyone enjoyed it. Tip led, almost from pillar to post. Could be said that we were very unlucky not to get the win, but at the end of the day, we needed a free then to level the game. Your thoughts on this absolute cracker?
Yeah, it is a great day all round. Weirdly, waking up Sunday morning, have that nervous confidence. You feel like something's going to happen, but you just don't want to let it out because ultimately you don't want to be disappointed. But there was the air of confidence around Thurles on Sunday. I thought it was electric even before anyone got into the stadium. And just coming in by the golf club there, the traffic started building and it just started feeling really championship, and getting into the stadium and hurling. And then when they came out, the touch of I see them all sitting down with the bibs taking the pictures, and I said, what are they doing? Then it dawned on me what the bibs were and the sponsorship on it for the Dylan Quirk Foundation, which I thought was an excellent touch. And the fare of hurling served up to the Tipperary public, to the GAA public, I thought it was unreal. And before we talk about the skills of the game and the scores on show and what we ask for, the fundament, the bare bones of what we ask for is heart, desire, determination, all these things forefront, absolutely everywhere in the stadium, supporters and players. And it was a great, I was wrecked coming home from the match. It was just a brilliant match and a brilliant performance from Tipperary. It's going to be the last I say on it when we compare to what we went through last year. It'll be the last I touch on it now because I think we're finished with last year. But the Tipperary team are back, and Sunday showed the whole country we're back. Some brilliant performances, some real big leaders on the day. We had our usual, but we also lads that went out, did the job, the thankless stuff. Dan McCormick doing a job on. I was fascinated. They were marking each other in front of me, and it's hard to take your eyes off what Dan McCormick was doing to him. Just annoying the crap out of him, being everywhere he was going, in his pocket. It was just a brilliant, detailed job and executed brilliantly. And then you had Noel McGrath's usual magic. We could talk about Noel McGrath all day, but one person I looked at closely was Jake Morris, because I don't think Jake set the world alight against Limerick the last couple of years because of their physicality. You would not, the Jake Morris of last year and the Jake Morris of this year, chalk and cheese, and that extra sprint and condition, an extra year under his belt, has done him the world of good. And I think Sunday was a real throwback to when we were at our best, and it gives the whole county confidence going forward.
Absolutely. And Colm, it's our old friends down in Waterford, we still have a job to do next Sunday to secure qualification and hopefully a bit more Munster final, or definitely a bit more with a win. I suppose you mentioned on this podcast maybe a bit of frustration about losing leads late on this year, maybe there's something creeping in there. And how would you have read? Would you be as optimistic as Stephen going forward, or still little niggling bit there about kind of having lost the lead late on again?
Well, look, Kevin, I suppose coming out of the Cork game, I'm sort of disappointed that we didn't win. Coming out of the Limerick game last Sunday, I was much more satisfied, even though we didn't win. So the kind of contrasting emotions, the Cork game, I thought we should have won and it was a point left behind. I had this feeling after the Limerick game that it was probably a point won. I mean, if you're a point down in injury time to the All-Ireland champions, you're taking a draw all day, every day. And look, if we'd been offered a draw before the game, I think realistically we could have taken it, because, you know, it's easy to be wise after the event. And, you know, I share a lot of what Stephen has said. And, you know, I woke up on Sunday morning with that sort of nervous anticipation as well. But, you know, I'm not going to come on and contradict what I said, you know, to people that I met on Sunday morning, that I thought, gun to my head, I thought Limerick were going to win. That's being honest with you. And I think, you know, there was a fear there that, and that fear almost became a reality at the start of the second half when Limerick came out and rattled off 4 points, one after another, like, and you are kind of looking at each other. But, you know, to be fair to the boys, like, we look a lot fitter, more organised, more together. We're much more tactically aware, better prepared, hard work. And I mean, I'm sure Sean will talk about the stats in a few minutes, but I've never seen a Tip team put in as many hooks, blocks, tackles. I mean, it was incredible. And, you know, I said on Premier View maybe on Sunday night that sort of one of these people who'd kind of fallen out of love with inter-county hurling the last couple of years to an extent. But Jesus, Sunday, like, you couldn't help but being very proud of the team and the supporters, and the whole occasion was just brilliant. So, you know, to answer your question, yeah, I was happier after the Limerick game than after the Cork game. I certainly think next Sunday is not a foregone conclusion. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little more in depth later on. But, you know, I saw someplace that Tipper 10-1 on or something in the bookies. I think that's absolutely bananas stuff. Like, I just don't see that myself. Just maybe to mention a couple of the players, Kevin, before the boys jump in, particularly like Barrett, super. I thought Ronan Maher was excellent. Brian O'Mara probably he definitely had the best game I've seen him play for Tip. He seemed to be on the ball an awful lot as well. Very cool, calm, you know, all of that sort of stuff. Stephen touched upon Noel, absolutely brilliant. Jake, brilliant in the first half, got 5 points. Bonner, I mean, the turning point of the game actually for me was in the second half. I don't know if you remember it, lads. Limerick had scored those 4 points, and one of the Limerick boys was coming away with the ball, and Bonner got in a tackle. And not only did he get in the tackle, but he also won the ball, if you know what I mean. The ball flicked up into him. He got fouled. We scored the free, game's back level, and we went on and got the next point then after that. So, you know, to me, that was a really, really big moment in the game. One thing just to finish on, I would say, I know Kevin is always trying to draw me out on my inner negativity. So my inner negativity, for what it's worth, is obviously the concerns around Cahill Barrett and whether Cahill will be able to start the next day. There's also, you know, rumours about Jake Morris and Jake Morris's fitness. You take Jason Ford out of that as well. Like, to me, they're three of the most important players we have, along with Noel, obviously. But, you know, those three are three lads that I would not like to see missing. Just finally then, and I'll shut up after this, just to mention Reece Shelley as well, and young Connolly from Cashel. Like, again, Sean will go into this, I'm sure, in a second, but we seem to get murdered on our puck outs when they were going long. Okay, so there was a bit of jeopardy in some of the puck outs that Reece was taking, the shorter ones. And a few times I just wanted to hide behind somebody, like, not to watch the short ones going out, because, you know, there were a lot of times they looked, you know, they either just made it or else they just missed, you know, and there was a lot of jeopardy there. But to be fair to him, he landed a long range free, looked confident, calm, collected inside in the goal. And Owen Connolly as well. I mean, I've asked you separately during the week, how did you think Owen Connolly played? But I think the fact that he was solid and not very spectacular, but he was solid. And for two young guys, and it's only when they take their helmets off and you see how young these boys are, you know, you have nothing but admiration for them. So yeah, I'm positive, Kevin, but I wouldn't be as certain about next Sunday, maybe as some of our mid and northern friends will be in a second now.
I think that's just a phony war coming out, I think. But I suppose we get to that Waterford game. It is quite a quick turnaround after what was a war of attrition, I suppose, last Sunday. And you alluded to, Sean, it was a very interesting game to read through the stats. I think you put up, I think Tipperary had 34 scoring chances and I think got 25 out of that. So that's one that stuck out with me. seems like a good efficiency there, but also like the work rate, was that really showing through the stats? And maybe even Limerick also being a bit off colour.
Yeah, like, look, I suppose I was listening to another podcast there yesterday morning. We were giving out about
Cheating
we're focused on, hooks, blocks, and tackles and stuff like that. And I was trying to say it there before, like, it's kind of not a measure of how hard you actually work, really. Like if you even look at the Heineken Cup or the Heineken Cup final there on Saturday, like Leinster made 183 tackles, La Rochelle made 73, but Leinster aren't the Heineken Cup champions, like. So, like,
could you expand on that a bit, Sean? Because I think it's a very interesting point. Is that
well, like,
basically if you have the ball, you're making less challenges?
Yeah, and see, the issue before was I think we were working really hard as we would have worked even on Sunday, but our structure is a lot better. We know what we're doing off the ball, even when we lose the ball. So we're able to get bodies there where we need to. Whereas before, we're probably only getting used to how Limerick play, especially how Limerick play, and you just don't have the bodies there where you need to have them at times. So you're not able to make those tackles. And then the other side of it as well is, and you've kind of said it, Colm said it already, like our long puck out wasn't firing. So, like, you have to put in huge effort to win the ball back straight off your own long puck out at times. But what was what I couldn't get over was we just had it in our legs to stay going. And that's why we've gone to zero after 55 minutes. I remember being 2019 Munster final. I remember being standing beside Eamon O'Shea after 55 minutes and saying, geez, the boys are going to zero because we lost 20 of 29 long puckouts. Like, so you're putting yourself under serious pressure. But like, just even there's one small thing. It was bad Tipperary play, but it showed how good things are at the moment. In the first half, I think it was Connolly got a ball and hit it straight down to Barry Nash. Jake was coming in behind like a train to chase Barry Nash, and he actually had his hand out pointing to Bonner. Bonner was getting attracted to Barry Nash and he was going to leave Kyle Hayes, and he just kept pointing as he was running as fast as he could to Bonner, as in, stay with Kyle Hayes. I'm going to make up this ground and get to Barry Nash. And Carl O'Neill still got a point off it, but straight away you're saying there, these lads have thought about all this, and it's not just in the moment stuff. It's they're thinking about these things, and maybe that's what we have been doing in the last while against teams like Limerick. But no, like, the work rate was phenomenal, and I think physically we matched up. I think to Limerick. You'd all probably agree that, I'd say.
And again, I think you're right. I think the structure looks a lot better this year. There's a lot of thought gone in. Kyle Hayes being a good point. It just looks like that they were going to commit bodies to him to stop him getting a gallop on.
Yeah.
Space, for another point, matching up on Flanagan correctly, be another one.
And I did think the sharp puckouts went out really quick, and it's actually gas you were saying about, Colm was saying about falling out of love with the game of hurling. Myself and Donamara went to the game, and Joe were driving over and you're stuck in traffic there around Bursley, and we just start talking about how the modern game is and 2-man full forward lines and sweepers and loads of sharp puckouts, and but we're saying, we were in the stand the other day, there was no one giving out saying drive the ball long to Shelley, they weren't giving out about the sharp puckouts, or there was no one giving out after saying tipper negative playing a sweeper. You can just show us that you can play the modern game and be ultra positive and give it everything. I just thought some of the sharp puckouts were excellent in terms of we got the ball out, we got to Ronan. You want to get Ronan on the ball around the D because he's able to get it over the half back line and into space. And maybe that's something we just need to work on, because if you stay doing that, teams will start dropping deep, and now pockets of space appear in front of your half forwards or for your midfielders. But even the small things, like it was a puck out we got a score off in the first half where it went out short to Ronan and he went long up the middle. And usually before, our midfielders would be going down looking short for the puck out. Conor Stakelin was on the Limerick 65, and the very minute the ball was hit by Ronan, he was in there, he got a flick onto the break, Mark Keogh got a ball and put it over the bar. So it just shows you there is a bit of clarity there. So if Ronan gets a short puck out, the midfielders aren't bolting back towards him and looking for a ball. They're going to where the ball is actually going to go to. And again, in the past, we mightn't have had that clarity, like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose Sean as well. Sean's bit. It takes two to tango, and we have to kind of talk about Limerick as well. Maybe some of their go-to guys, notably Cian Lynch and Garrod Hegarty, both subbed off early enough in the second half. Are they showing? Well, they're definitely showing signs that they're vulnerable this year. But how do you think they can rebound off this now going into next Sunday? What are your thoughts on, I suppose, them in particular?
Like Garrod Hegarty, the match up with Dan McCormack there was great call. Like, we saw the team. We said ourselves that there's the aim to mark men where players were played, and that's how it worked. Like,
all that talk about Hegarty during the week on the panel up the golf course and all that. Like, you're fearing the worst kind of thing, that he could explode into the game, but probably had the one true goal chance of this game, didn't he? And he scuffed it.
Oh yeah, but like he panicked. He was in between minds. It was only a half arse hit. Like, it was only real chance. Bar Jake Morris's Bonner's hand pass to Jay is true. Like, that was the goal. Like, well, fit targets ago, but that was scandalous. Like, but do we say there, like, we got mark up matchup. Like, even Jake Morris there at times was hassling Burns there. Burns, like, like a forward mark in the back there, and that's because he knew Burns was going to drive on. And as Sean said there, Jake was alert to this, and players were alert to stop the overlap, stop the runners off the shoulders, and just get to your man and make it hard on him. And like, they said, caught Barrett in the back. Then, Glenn Lynch were nice out of the walls as well. Like, so like, Cal got spot on, apart from winning the game, you'd say. We probably could have been up more at half time, I thought, maybe. Went in 3 up. Kind of, was there 1 or 2 more points in as Limerick may have got a few soft scores from balls and went astray there. But like, you mentioned Ree Shelley there, like, chatting to lads, said he'd never experienced something like that in his life, like the noise, the atmosphere, the crowd. Like, so like, he's learned from this, and he's clever in the second half. He started hitting the ball short and going back for a turn ball, whereas working through lines. And even you said there, Sean, as well, forward behind me, they weren't actually saying hit it long. Like, they're actually impressed with working the ball through lines, like, because they're starting to see that you can't do this against Limerick. You can't hit balls down top of Hannon. And at times we've done that. Hannon came out there. Did Hannon get 2 points, did he? Or did he get 1? He got 1 whopper anyway. He cleared the ball, and the Limerick roared in, like, so that's how you stop. They're the ones that get the crowd going, like, so like, we go onwards from that. But like, as in, the injuries could be worried if Barrett missed next day, if Jake Morris is going forward, like, but lads are stepping up, like, and I knew this start last week gave it all. Like, there's lads going off and they were wounded. Like, people saying Tynan didn't get on ball, didn't score, but by God, he worked. He was just there working, running. Like, if you can watch what he's doing, like, he had a job to do. He wasn't given the freedom of expression like he had blown Cork. So like, he can do multiple tasks if you want, like Tynan.
Yeah, I thought he pinned him back as well as what he did. He did do. There was, like, right with the injuries. We had a wicked run last year. With injuries, probably definitely didn't help matters. Like they are, as you said, that's a quick 7-day turnaround. Looking to it, like the likes of Shame, he came on, first as a blood sub briefly, and then kind of into the second half. Is he a lad now that could be starting, Stephen, maybe on Sunday? Do you throw a curveball in again? We'd love to see Bonner probably starting again.
Yeah, you could, and look, even to take away the nostalgia of it, and you wouldn't be disappointed if Shamey Callan started next week, and like, I'm not going to disrespect the man and say he'd only be starting because of his name. He didn't get on much ball. I don't think he got on any ball bar the point he scored. But that point he scored, he was falling. I think I'd say he was nearly on his knees at the time he got the strike away. Like, Shamey's presence alone at the edge of the square will cause huge concern for the Waterford full backline if he gets the run next week. If Jake Morris's shoulder is hurt, like, it looked, why would you bother playing him next week when Shamey Callan is, he's there chomping at the bit for a game? So I think you could see him play next week, and you'd probably see John McGrath playing next week, because I think as great as Jake Morris is playing this week or this season, really grabbing the grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck. And Marky Ho as well has had 2 excellent games now. But you're still going to need John McGrath, Shamie Callan. You're going to need these fellas, and Bonamar again. You're going to need these fellas if we want to make a serious run in the rest of this championship. And I'd be like Colm, a little bit nervous next week, literally because of where I'm from. The last thing you want to do is give them any bragging rights of no matter what, even if Jesus, God forbid, they were to beat us, but we would still somehow sneak through. They'd still have bragging rights, you know. You still have to listen to them.
I think we're through with a Limerick win anyway, if I have my maths right.
Bar 2 freak results, we're through, which you can't see that in other than Tip qualifying. But I think these lads, they're more than, like, I'm talking about like they're only young fellas. Like, these are seasoned players. They're all Ireland winners. So I think I could see Cal starting Seamus Cannon and John McGrath, because I think they have huge parts to play going forward this year.
Just mentioned there as well on like they're one of the players when he's like Conor Bowe came on and Jesus, 3 points.
Brilliant.
He was just composed. He was like, I'll be free now in 2 seconds. I just made room around midfield and got the ball and looked up. He had time and just slatted over. Like, it was perfect. You know,
that's the lad that was brought on and taken off in the game beforehand.
Yeah.
And then Bonner, who's also thought excellent, that was it. But I don't think he got a minute in the previous 2 games, kind of sprung out of nowhere. So it's like the training must be to a very good standard, because lads are able to kind of seamlessly come in and get to the pitch.
Like, imagine if Conor Bowe hit the first. Imagine if Conor Bowe hit the first attempt wide from, say, 70 yards out, like, wide the fuck's in, and second ball again, like, negativity be straight on him again, like, but he's slotting over bar, and like, that's going to do everything for his confidence, like.
But does it show what they're doing in training? That's obviously the physical side of stuff, but the mental side of stuff too. Like he could have been wallowing in self-pity there, lack of confidence. It's just from the Cork game, because no matter what you do on a hurling field, if you're brought on as a sub and taken back off, it hurts. Like, it's a knock to the confidence. He came in, like, Liam Cahill then didn't hold it against him. They got back to the training ground. They trained away, and he saw him as I'm bringing this man in because I know he can make an impact. In went Conor Bowe and was brilliant, and again, he's the man now that's putting his hand up for next week. That's what we want. We want all these lads coming in, making the manager's job as hard as possible in the positive sense. We don't want an easy job where a lad is not pulling his weight, so he's not on the team. We want this as hard as possible. And what John showed there, I know he was only on the field for a couple of minutes, like the character and the guts that he showed to stand over that free, still cold, probably not even warmed up properly, to slot it over the bar like he was there taking frees all his life. Not only are we up to the pitch with the fitness and the physical demands of the inter-county hurling and the level that we want to be at, but mentally all these boys look in top class condition, and that's it's brilliant to see, because the mental side of this game is huge too.
But there seems to be huge trust there between players. Like, you don't get that kind of cohesiveness even working like at the backs. If someone turns around and just bolts back trying to help their full back line, if you're a wing back, if you're Dan McCormick, whoever, like, there's no kind of looking over my shoulder going, just who's going to pick up my man. They just know that someone is going to show up for him, like, and that's why you mightn't be as worried if a couple of lads do fall for injury, because when you're winning a few games or going well, everyone buys into that. Do you know that sort of way?
I suppose before we move on, we better mention Noel McGrath, a captain, led by example. So great, almost trademark reverse pass. To the very end, I suppose, like right in the middle of the melee or the handbags at the end. Kind of, I think shows that he's at the forefront of a real togetherness in this team. It's just, like, the man is a Tipperary legend in my mind, right at the very front of the best we've ever produced. But it's just great to actually be able to go to see him still.
Did he score in the 43rd minute? Remember the score he got in the second half? I thought that just showed where Tipperary are. Like, Limerick won the puck out, pressure was applied, remember Ree Shelley took it from underneath the crossbar, kind of flicked it out in front of him. Tip worked the ball across the middle, you know, in where there was traffic, got it over all the traffic then into Mark Keogh, across the field to Noel on his own and over the bar. Like that just shows you where we are, lads. We're really moving on like that. Before we'd be expecting our goalie to go from the 14-yard line straight into, you know, that sort of way, and teams can read it. Like
A sideline as well, you know, just
yeah.
like so difficult to do, and you almost expect it kind of just when he walks over. And again, it's just very important score for lifting the crowd, which are great. Again, you know, there's a bit of talk, Tip being outnumbered and all that kind of stuff by Limerick, but again, like, you know, Tipperary really turned up in numbers, like in Semple, both terraces kind of almost packed as well, stands packed out.
Yeah,
I think Noel had 13 possessions. I read someplace on Sunday, and I mean, like every one of them, like none of them wasted. Like he's just he's like, you don't want to be using soccer analogies, but I mean, I think we all agree that Messi is the greatest player, certainly of our generation. But Noel McGrath reminds me of Messi in so many ways. Like he's just unflappable out in the field. He's a real leader. You know, he's vocal on the field this year, as you said, Kevin. He was involved in the bit of jostling at the end of the game. You know, and he leads by example as well. I mean, I don't think any player on the panel wouldn't be inspired by having Noel McGrath beside him on the field, and I think that's really important. And one thing I heard mention of on the Sunday game on Sunday night during the commentary was that he only has 2 All-Stars. I was a bit surprised at that, actually. I would have figured that he'd have more than 2 All-Stars, but like you said, I think he, you know, God help us today, he does hang up the boots, but he will go down as an absolute Tipperary legend. And to have 2 of his brothers on the panel and some days on the team as well, I mean, that's, for the McGrath family, that's incredible. Like, you know, I don't think I don't think it's appreciated enough, but I mean, you couldn't but have admiration for those guys. And as you said, for John to step up and hit that last free over the bar, and from what I understand, Cal, they were looking over at the sideline to see who was to take the free, because if you remember, Garrod O'Connor was gone off, Noel was gone off, and Liam Cahill was pointing at John McGrath to take it. You know, so Liam Cahill had no hesitation in saying John McGrath is the man to hit this free. It doesn't matter what happened down in Cork 2 weeks ago and the late free. He backed John McGrath and backed the McGraths that they put it over the bar. So, you know, delighted for John that he got the opportunity to, don't want to say redeem himself from the previous, because he doesn't owe us anything like that, but there was a certain sort of justice, I suppose, that John was the one to hit the leveller.
Speaking of Cork there, lads, I was in Noel Ryan's. I got my timings wrong for the football, so I missed it, unfortunately. But given the result, the Limerick cheer when Clare got over the line in Noel Ryan's in against Cork and just hung on was a sight to behold. The relief there was something else. You know, which is, look, the rivalry there is massive. But what that does now means basically like a de facto elimination round in Munster this weekend with a must-win game for Cork, and Limerick can draw it, I think, can go through. But that's going to be a cracker. It's a pity maybe Sean is not in the Parky Cueve, going to really level it up. Would you give Cork any chance here?
Suppose you would give them a chance in a way of, like, they have forwards to do damage, and that forward line has troubled Limerick's backline, you know, over the last couple of years. What you'd be worried about, though, is you probably will be worried about Cork from 1 to 7. And what I have noticed about Limerick this year, right, is a lot of teams are playing a lot more sharp hookouts, and it's kind of hurting Limerick in a small way, because, you know, when you go along against Limerick, they are well able to manage it. Whereas now the ball going out short is being varied, and, you know, teams aren't trying to run out then like heroes either. It's not Braveheart stuff. They're playing the ball around, they're getting bodies into different places, they're just going straight direct into the full forward line. So, like, for Limerick, I'd say they go full court press the weekend now, push up on the Cork puck out, apply the pressure, and then they force Cork to go along, because I think Cork went long on, I think they went wrong on 19 long puck outs against Clare, and I think they only won, what was it again? They went long, Cork went long, what was it again? 19, yeah, and they lost 11. Do you know, so that shows you, again, we're talking about Tip before, you go empty very quick. when that happens. So, and you can't go empty against Limerick because that's when they start walking through you, like, you know.
Bit of breaking news there. So just physically, Tipperary GA just tweeting there. Just go back to Tipperary GA can confirm the notification of a proposed 4-week suspension plus a 1-match ban for senior hurling manager Liam Cahill was received from the CCCC today. Tipperary GA and Liam Cahill are now considering options and will make a decision within the time frame allowed. That's something I suppose we should have covered there. Liam Cahill red card. Going to have big ramifications, I suppose, going forward.
They'll appeal that, like, because if it takes the ban, suppose they can't even view the team for the next 4 weeks, which, like, just lock the gates and train. Like, it's, I don't know, like, these rules. That's a new rule brought in as well. The whole team not allowed with the team, isn't it? That's a recent thing that I'm aware, is it?
I heard it being discussed earlier on tonight, Sean, on the radio, and the implication was that the ban was not just a match day ban; it was, a preparation of the team. But I mean, like, there's a whole lot of stuff about this. I mean, first of all, okay, whatever, we don't know what Carl said to James Owens. Okay, now we know that the two of them have a little bit of history going back to the years from different games. So that's the first point. The second point is James Owens got the bloody decision wrong. I mean, I was 50 yards away from where it happened, and I could see that it was wrong. The game is in the melting pot. I mean, I'm not, like, obviously, look, and this isn't paying lip service. We need respect for linesmen and we need respect for referees. But I mean, in the 74th minute of a Munster Championship game, if Liam Cahill isn't going to dispute a sideline that's clearly wrong, I mean, we're trying to take all emotion out of the game. Third point I'd make about this is, I mean, why has this become an issue this week? Like, Brian Lohan has no problem abusing referees and abusing linesmen. I mean, Davy Fitzgerald, I mean, it's an absolute joke what he's getting away with. He's made a career out of it. John Kiley is no angel. Okay, I'm not suggesting that Carl is an angel either, and I'm sure there was words last Sunday. But I mean, I just find it amazing that
Barry Kelly down the years.
Yeah, but why is it the Tipperary manager all of a sudden that's been picked out and been given it? So I hope we appeal it, and I mean, we seem to, Tip always seem to be the ones who end up sort of carrying the can for these kind of new rules that GA bring in. If you remember a few years ago as well, when Davy Fitzgerald ran onto the field and interfered with one of our players and Jason Ford stepped in, Jason Ford ended up getting banned. These sort of ridiculous, arbitrary things that they come up with, and we always seem to be the ones that feel the end, that seem to be on the end of it. Like, I think James Owens should be the one getting a 1-match or a 4-week suspension because for bloody bad decision making last Sunday.
As well, I think if it was a 1-game ban, you might just say, look, Waterford, it's coming quick. There's no real break in momentum and all that. You might just accept it, move on, hopefully get the win. I know it's still a banana skin, but like a month in peak championship season, potentially Munster final, potentially All Ireland quarter final as well, and the appeal when the ban would start, or I mean, there's a lot to consider there, really. Like, isn't there? It seems really overkill, and I think there's a lot of surprise with it.
I'm reading here, Kevin. It says Cal will not be allowed to train or communicate in any way with the team or management prior to this Sunday's Munster Senior Championship Round 5 game against Waterford, or else a potential fine against player on 11th of June. In other words, he's not allowed to talk to any player manager.
What if he runs into him?
Like,
one of what?
How would you police that?
At the end of the day,
there's loads of rules in the GA that you can't police, but I could be wrong on this, but I think when a player gets red carded and he's serving a suspension, I'm fairly sure, maybe back in the old rules, that he couldn't even train with his team until the suspension's up. Something to do with insurance and things like that, but a suspension is from all club activities. Now, that's probably what they're looking at, and because now it's been worded the way they're worded, but I think that's I think that's how the suspensions were supposed to work anyway. But now, as it's Tip, back to what Colm said, they'll drop the hammer on. Like, as I said, the linesman got the decision wrong, and in the white hot heat of Munster Championship, that late in the game, Jesus, like, you'd want to be the greatest of saints to be able to bite your tongue and stay relaxed. Now, again, we don't know what he said. Hopefully it wasn't too bad, that they go down the road of appealing it if they're looking for the full month. And no contact.
What did Tommy Dunn get last year, lads?
I was just going to say the same thing, Kevin. Like, I mean, the last person I can remember getting any kind of a ban was coincidentally a tip man again, Tommy Dunn. So are we to take it against Waterford? So are we to take it that no referee has been abused since Tommy Dunn abused somebody last year? Like, it's a
exactly.
nonsense. It's an absolute freaking nonsense, is what it is.
To the field catching a ball, you know, and the Kilkenny taking the free or whatever it was.
It's gone crazy now, lads. Like, even think of water carriers not being allowed to be hooked up to the sideline, to Liam Cahill. So, like, what you have, like, is you're going around trying to get tickets for lads that can sit in front of the sideline, who are literally just talking to the management on the sideline, and then going down to the side of the pitch to talk to the water carrier, who can then go into the players, like, and then they're getting yellow cards because they're going in past in messages, and the yellow card is nothing really, like. So, and then you look at the other side of it, like Liam Cahill probably didn't say anything bad or personal to James Owens, and at the end of the day, lads, if you can't show emotion, you can't fight for your team. You know, everyone makes a mistake, fine. Liam Cahill is probably giving his whole life to that job. Like every other county manager, they're missing time with their children, time with their wife, everything. And to be turned around then and be told because you contested line ball that you cannot go near the team for a month.
Yeah.
Just like,
look, and I will stick up for James
crazy.
Owens. Look, it was a bad decision to get wrong. And look, James Owens is also spending time away from his family and giving up his time.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
And look, look, we are in an era, we see the kind of videos going viral of refs getting abused and all the rest of it in the south, and like we are trying to kind of promote refereeing, because without them we don't have a game. But like, just for me, this severity this bad has come out of nowhere.
Why pick the tip man?
Move on. No,
why are we picking? Why is the tip man being picked here though? That's all I'm asking. Like, why is, like, I go back to what I've asked already. Do I take it that James Owens is the first official to have been abused since Tommy Dunn abused someone below Welsh Park last year? Because I've been to several matches where I've seen opposition managers abusing referees in intercounty this year. It's a nonsense, is what it is. I just think, again, it's picking out the Tipperary management and having a go at them. Like, so, like, will we see Davy Fitzgerald being sanctioned, Brian Lohan being sanctioned? No, we haven't. It's a nonsense, and I hope the Tipperary County Board fight this head on.
Yeah, Lohan in particular is an absolute joke. Davy's well known for it, but Lohan just seems to get away with a whole pile. And Clare, you know, it's a different kind of topic, but you know, they're diving again the weekend and stuff, not being pulled up on it. It's something you don't want to see. But anyway, that's back to next week. Clare have their feet up in a Munster final. Sean, I was just on you, so you give Cork probably a puncher's chance. Limerick need to win ourselves.
Yeah.
Bit of goings on in Leinster as well, lads, I suppose, with that historic win for Westmeath. Sean, you're nodding the head there. 16 or 17 points down, I think it was at one stage, and Jesus,
17 points Wexford, and looking across here now, actually at Wexford, across the valley there, and it's all bad timber in it, so under the can herd, it's all our land, not much there. So
they're probably heading for the McDonough. I think Antrim will beat Westmeath.
Yeah, that's, listen to off the wall now last night, lads saying it's more likely Kenny will beat Wexford, you know, and Antrim more likely to beat Westmeath. That's kind of, but how would you be 17 up and lose by 2? Like, it's a 19-point swing. I just can't fathom it. Like, at any level, like, to be honest, like, I've been 10 up in games and lost, or 11, but 17. Like, last year Westmeath did draw them, so Wexford knew they couldn't just walk into it and win. So grand, they're up well, hold the heads. But like, that's a new low for Wexford. Like, we mentioned a few times in the pod here, didn't we? Like, saying, did they peak? You know, it should have been 2019. Are their heads just gone from it? You know, like, they're relying on, they've only 1 or 2 players. There's a problem there. So many of them actually start for Tip, like, you know, 1 or 2 maybe. You know, that's really it. Like, so,
Stephen, did you mention, you know, after that incident down in Carrick, the challenge match, that the Wexford lad, that they did seem very together, the way they like backed up their own men and all that? There probably wasn't a sign of things to come.
Yeah, like, in fairness, just they were like even just before the disgusting verbal tirade, or I don't know how to phrase it, but there was a little bit schmozzle there, and they had each other's back. Like, you know, that's where it all stemmed from. There was a schmozzle there. They had each other's back and they looked together. But I suppose maybe the warning signs were there at the day, because I remember a lad, I said on the pod there one day, there was the lads standing beside me watching the match, and Tip were playing with the wind in the first half. They had real good lead. You could see what Wexford were trying to do, but they were against the wind. And one of the lads beside me said, Wexford will implement their game plan way better in the second half than Tip will. Well, Tip came out in the second half and hammered the shit out of Wexford. They fell asunder. So, you know, in challenge matches, you kind of say, well, there was a challenge match, they're missing a few lads, they're working on things. But maybe it's a sign of things to come. And to lose a 17-point lead, if they lost it against Kilkenny, let's say, you'd say, look, that a team like Kilkenny can do that to you. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but Westmeath should not be pulling back a 17-point lead on Wexford.
That was half time as well. It was 60, 16 and a half time,
16 and a
17
half
just
time,
four.
yeah, I think
You know,
that's
like,
17.
You know, like, that's the sign of, the sure sign of a broken team. Now, they're either not playing for their manager, or, let's be blunt about it, the manager, what they're doing down there, or it might have something to do with their new system they implemented there last year, the year before. You know, they have a split season down there as well. And Waterford have a bit of an
The split season, yeah.
You know, so are these playing havoc with their county team? You know, like, I don't know how many games they're getting in Wexford, but I know in Waterford did groups of 3. So you're getting 2 championship games, and, you know, if you're not qualifying, that's it. Like, you know,
Like, I know they take the, you know, not playing for the manager, and I know, Sean, you're kind of were at doing a few stats for him as well, or at the Galway game, but like they were 17 points up at one stage. So like the manager can't go on and hurl from on the field, like, or you know, a bit of savviness and seeing out a game. So
like there were 7 or 8 up near 10 to go, and like it was. I saw Westmeath's late goals. They got 2 goals. They're just long balls. They weren't like well worked. Just balls hit in and they got goals off. Like, you know, like bread and butter stuff. It was defending, someone coming out, win the ball, win your free, settle down. He'll kill a winner.
I suppose,
you know, like,
the good thing for him is that they only have a week to go now, a week turnaround to Kilkenny, because they're straight into it. You know, there's no kind of time to feel sorry for themselves. But it would be an absolute massive turn off. This is a bad Wexford team.
They're struggling with the high ball there in around the square. Like, if not even against Clare last year, and you saw it against Dublin, even the goal against Dublin, and you see the other night then, like, you know, a few high balls let in. But I don't know, like, it's weird because, look, I know Darragh well, like, you know, and like he's definitely, you know, and look, I know from people around Wexford even talking to him, like they have as good a setup as Tipperary or anybody would have. So like they're getting probably detail, you know, and you know, Corcoran there, like he's savage coach. You know, you have Willie Cleary down there as well, a savage coach, won a county final with Gorey. You know, so for first ever county final, I think, with Gorey. So like, I don't know, it's a strange one, like, but like you have to look at the age profile as well as some of the players. Like Dee O'Keefe was a huge part of that team, and he's not really there anymore. Sean Murphy, these lads. So it's probably, I don't know, like it's tough on Darragh too, because as we said, like Liam Cahill, all these lads are putting in time and effort and they're driving down to Wexford. And geez, man, it's not happening. Like it's when you're over, you know yourselves, when you're over a team and things aren't going well, it's geez, you'd be freaking trying to stay at home and not even talk to people. You know, it's a hard place to be, like. But geez, lads, it's a strange one, because like you're 16 points up, you lose. The day before you played Dublin, you hit 20 something wides and you lose by a couple of points as well. Like you know yourselves that the game is so fucking fickle, like a bounce here or there and you get a couple of wins that you mightn't should have got, and things take off. Do you know that sort of way? But geez, I don't know, like, it's gonna be hard to see him turn it around against Kilkenny on Sunday, isn't it?
Like Wexford there at the end, if like them 2 late goals after 7 up, whatever it was, like if neither of them at the end, they would have won maybe by 8 or 9 points, job done onwards. No, that would have been it. Like maybe let 10-point lead slip, but still show resilience at the end to kind of see it out. Like when it happens the other way, they do say the high ball into square and from watching the games earlier on this year, it actually comes to mind it was troubling, like, but there's probably no other players in that full back line around him they could throw in. It's just, that's the kind of way it was, wasn't it, Ron?
Do you know what, lads? Doesn't it just show you? Like, if you look at the Tip team now, look at all the players they're playing. Like, they've trained since November. A lot of them have a lot of league games in their legs, and they're in great nick. And you look at some of the teams then, like lads missing half the league, 3/4 of the league. Like, you just can't spoof it anymore at intercounty level. You can't just come back all of a shot. Like, you remember Shane O'Donnell came back in, was it 2019? Do you know, and he wasn't hectic. Do you remember he was away for a while, or he was in America, like, and he wasn't hectic. It took him a few years to get back going. So you just can't spoof it, not spoof it, but you can't. If you don't have
take shortcuts.
No, you can't take. That's the word. You can't take shortcuts anymore.
But the likes of Wexford, you know, around 2010, 2011, awfully performed. If there was a round robin there with relegation, this might have happened a decade ago. I think it's only the change in structures is probably shining a light on how maybe off the pace they can be in certain years. Obviously, Davy came in there, got a good gallop out of them for a couple of years. They got their Leinster title, but you know, they were really off the pace in the early part of the last decade as well.
But when
Kelly dominates, probably hit a bit of that as well.
But when they won the Leinster final, sure didn't they draw? They beat Carlow, and they drew against. Did they have 3 draws or 2 draws? Maybe 3 draws, was it?
Definitely, they drew a whole pile of games, didn't they?
Yeah. And then, you know, you hit the straps in one day, then, and you turn a team over in a final, like. So, yeah, it is. Yeah, you know, you'd still think though the likes of Rory O'Connor and these lads would be able to manage the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Was Killian Doyle on for Westmeath as well? Who'd be probably one of the
he was injured, isn't he?
Yeah, so that, I mean, makes it worse again. Like,
yeah, it is.
Like for Westmeath again, as I said, it's nearly in their interest to lose on Sunday to Antrim, because then you have potentially a Leinster Championship next year with Westmeath, Antrim, and the winner of Carlow and Offaly. So, like, you know, this.
It could be gone from Europa League to Conference League, I think, at that stage, is what you're saying.
I know what it gives Westmeath a chance and thinking, geez, we could beat Antrim and a team to come up and maybe Dublin and actually come third, like, you know, the way you're thinking there.
I should look at Cork. Cork drew against Tipper flying it. Bet Waterford, fair enough.
Yeah.
Lost by a point to Clare, who were motoring well.
Should have drawn it, like, you know, they shouldn't have lost that.
And could lose the weekend now and are gone. Yeah. And you look at Dublin, they bet Antrim, Westmeath. They drew at Dublin, bet Westmeath, bet Wexford, and they're in
Wexford by a point or whatever, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it is flawed.
And they have a swing in the Leinster final against Galway on Sunday.
Do you know what, like?
So and technically Tipperary could be out as well. Like, if Limerick Cork draw and we lose by 400 points, like, we could have be gone as well. Like, anything back as well.
Kevin, you won't be surprised to hear that. A bit like Sean, I give Cork a chance on Sunday because, you know, I have this sort of fetish about Cork hurling and that I'm always talking them up at some level, but actually give them a chance on Sunday because I'm trying to weigh up, and I don't know what the boys think about this. Are Limerick kind of staggering around now like a punch-drunk boxer, just waiting for someone to land a blow on him? And as the lad said there a minute ago, like Sean, I think, mentioned it, Cork have the forwards maybe to do that, you know, that they could. I know I take the point about them from 1 to 7 that, you know, that they're probably not at their best, but I think there might be a kick in Cork, and we laugh and joke about this, about the kind of Corkness of Cork, and they won't lack for confidence or swagger going in there on Sunday. But geez, lads, I'd give them a fair chance now. I really would, you know. And there's serious jeopardy here as well.
Limerick only scored 25 points on Sunday as well against Tip. You know, that against Cork probably. If they only score 25 again, Cork have a right chance. If they get a couple of goals, like Kingston, for example, if he can bury a couple of goals there, like, which I think they will need to beat him, on paper, Cork have a chance. So then look, Limerick, it'll be like they're out all of a sudden then. The championship will just explode, you know? Yeah. I think.
Yeah. They still only have lost the game, though, lads. I mean, think about it, like, and they lost the game by a point.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, Sean. Yeah, that's it.
And it's so tight now, like, and they're probably, look, for me, 2 of their marquee players aren't playing well. Cian Lynch and Garrow Integrity. And I think any team who rely on those type of players, if they're not playing well, are going to struggle. And the other thing I think is, and look, your question, what manager was won what for All Ireland, but like Kyle Hayes had one shot in 2 games. Like if you look at the All Ireland semi-final and All Ireland final last year, he was their go-to man in the forwards. Like, you know, in the semi-final and final. So I don't know, he doesn't seem to be playing any of those young lads like Colin Coughlin, and they're not getting thrown in, are they?
O'Neill was good though.
O'Neill was excellent, yeah.
You know, when they are getting thrown in, but
It's just, yeah.
it's back to now Graham Mulcahy again. He did have an impact.
If Cork can score goals, like Limerick last day again, like they're trying to score these, we're saying they're scoring 30 points now, but they're not even reaching that anymore, you know. So if Cork can get a few goals on them and the forwards are there, but the problem is if Cork, the backs, they're able to do a tip done, just hold them out, break the ball, turn it over there. Like, I don't know if they can, maybe.
I know the other side of his Cork put in a savage effort as well the weekend, like.
Yeah.
So they threw every night clear.
Like
right, boys, before we round up, football, Party Tipperary football at a low ebb. Probably a win against Waterford by my maths probably won't even be enough to kind of get you a preliminary quarter final in the Talton Cup.
Yeah, like,
Stephen, you were in there anyway, so
yeah,
For my sins.
for your
Yeah.
sins, even. Yeah,
I got up there nice and early. The match, you know, one of the lads had the call. I just couldn't not watch the football, and I don't want to disrespect the players because I know they give their lives playing football, but it was brutal stuff. Sideways passing, slow build-up play, a lot of not mobile fellas. I'd call them, like, you know, that zippy pace wasn't there, and even in the first half we it's where I was part of it. But Tipperary created 2-man full forward line, and most of the other players were out, good bit out past the 45. And you know, if it was a kicking game, you would get a ball, get it in early. You know, our lads know it's coming. They're out in front. No, we just walked it all the way up to the 45. Then we're able to get back in numbers. And when they attacked at pace, and like they must have had about 5 or 6 balls hand passed over the bar. That's how close and how quick and close they were able to get the air goal.
and look, down are no world beaters either.
No, Alfred was poor. We made him look like a Division 1 side. You know, it's hard. Look, I understand the boys that those players are giving their lives to that for that jersey. You know, they're training just as hard as anyone else, and same with the management team, like we touched on already. But it
looks like
it was really poor. We're at a really low ebb.
Yeah, we see it now. You know, definitely green shoots, and shout out to the Tip Miners who kind of had a good campaign there. Came up short in their semi-final, like after a few wins and an hour defeat in the Darcy Cup. But it looks like, you know, the next 3 or 4 years in Tip football is going to be all about rebuilding and stuff. And probably, look, this management team, would you say, is probably coming to a natural end now? You know, kind of got the big one, which they'll always be remembered for. But is there any point in kind of them going on where it looks like they're maybe out of ideas?
Yeah, it probably looks like a new management's needed. You know, freshen up. And the young lads coming through now, you know, the people taking them on, you know, maybe they bring him through as well, you know, because they know him, they understand him better, and a new footballing philosophy as well would be needed. I think go at him. You know, if let's say if we're in the bottom rung of football counties, so be it. But go at it. Have a go. You know, if we're going to be bet, go out and get bet by having a go. You know, at least throw a few punches. We're not, you know, it's negative football. In fairness to the management, they did lose a lot of good players over the last couple of years. So maybe both cycles are done, and a new rebuild is needed. And you know, it's poor now. Anytime a player puts on a Tip jersey, no matter what the sport is, you want to see him to win, and you want to see him winning. And you know, even though you have to understand where we are in terms of the hierarchy of football, it's still frustrating to watch him play the way they play, and get bet the way they got bet.
But like, just to put into how bad they were, like, you know, and like you said, I think maybe sometimes Tip footballers can get a free ride, you know, as you said, they train as hard as the hurlers and all that. But Waterford have a score difference here, having played the same two teams, Meath and Down of -20. Tip are -29, which is by far the worst score difference in the Tailteann Cup.
Yeah.
Way worse than the likes of Leitrim, Wicklow, and London, -15, who prop up their group. So we are totally off the pace in
Yeah.
a tiered competition. We're not going out and losing to Kerry or whatever in this one. We're totally off the pace.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and look, for me, that comes back down to the style of play. You know, if you're sideways moving, like if you're going to have a slow build up and then trying to execute it up top, the speed up top has to be unreal. Like the movement of the ball, the movement of the players. I saw nothing of that on show, and I'm no football expert. I don't know, but I just compared it to what we were doing compared to what Down were doing. The movement of Down up top, the movement, the speed of their players, the ball handling. It was chalk and cheese to what our lads is. And look, understandably, probably our lads are playing with a lack of confidence, but it really showed the weekend. And I'm trying not to be too harsh on them, but it was brutal viewing, and it would not encourage me to go early the next day if there was a double header on.
Corky Queeve, double header. Cork and Kerry at 3 and Tip and Waterford at 1 o'clock, I think it is. Something like that. On
Kevin, before we move off to
television.
hurling, just to say one thing. I'm just curious on what everybody would think. Like, if, like, okay, so we win on Sunday, we get to a Munster final. If results don't go against us, we're third and we qualify. If the unthinkable happens and we don't qualify, how would the year be seen, do you think? You know, just like we've had 3 really good championship games. I'm just like, we know ourselves, every championship defeat in Tipperary is like a death in the family, right? So I'd be interested to see, you know, if we didn't qualify, would people look back on this year and go, yeah, success, we're building, we're going well? Or is it really just all about next Sunday and to hell with what's happened the last 3 weeks, if you know what I mean?
If at the stage we're at now, right now, so we're talking on the Tuesday after the Limerick game, if we don't qualify for the Munster final, or if we're knocked out of the Munster Championship, the Hurling Championship after Waterford Sunday, everything that we did the last few weeks is out the window, and I think it's been an unmitigated disaster of a day if we don't qualify next week. That's like, we built the rebuilding was in the league and the early stages of the championship. We're in a position now to qualify not only for the All-Ireland series, but the actual Munster final. To even mention the unthinkable, let alone for it to happen, it'd be a very sad day for Tip Hurling, I think, if that was to happen next week.
I'd say if Tip lose to Waterford next Sunday, I'd say you're going down to Stokes and Cork on Monday morning, putting the house up for sale.
I'd be the opposite, lads. Like, think of it now, right? Imagine standing this time last year and saying Rhys Shelley, Connolly, O'Mara, Stakelum, Tynan, O'Connor, Keogh, Morris, and Bo are going to be driving your team. You know, that sort of way. Like, that's serious. I think that's serious progress from the players, number one, and the management. And like, Sunday's interesting because even just take turnovers, right? Waterford scored 30 points from turnovers in 3 games. We've played 3 games and we've scored 350. So like, there's nearly 30 points in the difference what we're doing. So it just shows you the different type of game we're playing. And do you know when you say a game takes life of its own? Tip used to play Kilkenny and it used to just turn into chaos, ping pong. If Tip can avoid kind of getting into that, sucked into that what Waterford are doing, like, I don't think there'll be any problem. But I'd be more excited now if there are a few injuries, that can we even get another couple of lads starts and see how they go. Even get John McGrath back into that team and have a good 70 minutes. But I think the year is a win already, to be honest. I don't know what you think. I think it's a total win. I think we've got new management in. Like, even watching Dan McCormick sitting down beside Anthony Daly the other day, I was looking at Dan going, Jesus, he's in some nick. He's in the nick of his life. Like, you know, I just think, and there's no, apart from maybe Shamey and Bonner, like, and Bonner is a huge loss, to be honest, looking at what he was doing the other day in the first half. But like, there's not going to be huge fallout over the next couple of years of players either.
I think though, Sean, it would be a colossal missed opportunity. Again, the All-Ireland champions from the last 3 years a bit out of sorts, not to be making a big impact on this championship.
Yeah.
And look, I don't think it will happen. I think we'll beat Waterford well.
Yeah.
I just hope we get on top early and turn it into kind of challenge match fair, to be perfectly honest, with no intensity. Knock the ball. I can really see it kind of Tip just taking over here on Sunday. I think Waterford being so brittle, you get on top of them early on, they won't want to know about it. Anyway, boys, predictions just to wrap things up. First, we'll go with the Tip game. For me, I'll go for Tip by 15 points. Sean Smith.
Tip by 8.
Stephen.
I want to say, give the big middle finger to Colm now for making me worried with this fucking ridiculous worst case scenario thing. But no, I'm going to go Tip with 10 points.
Colm.
Tip by 1 will do me, Kevin. Like, I actually find myself more agreeing with Sean Flynn on this than anyone else. I was talking about this going up in the car on Sunday. Like, I mean, my feeling on Sunday was, if we got to 55 minutes on Sunday and we were close to Limerick and say we lost the game, I'd say, Jesus, we've come on a bit again. Like, do you know what I mean? And we got to 55 minutes, I think we were in front. But like, I know what's going to happen, Kevin and Tip, and Stephen has said it. Like, if we lose on Sunday, everything that, despite the very measured response from Sean Flynn there, everything that will have happened the previous 3 weeks will be fucked out the window, and we'll be useless. They're this, they're that, they're the other thing. Like, they're definitely a team worth following and worth supporting at the moment, and hopefully a big crowd goes up again on Sunday and gets behind them. But I'll take any kind of a win now. And if you'd offered me this situation at the start of the year, playing Waterford.
Oh, it's beyond our wildest dreams, to be honest, with Waterford being out as well. It's perfect.
I'll take that. And I'm going to go for Cork to beat Limerick as well, and Limerick to be knocked out. So there you go.
Sean, last up for the Tip game.
Yeah, I think we'll win by 2 or 3 points. I think. I don't know. Just Waterford they're hard to play against, and in terms of, like, it's just not going to be like last Sunday, and maybe Cork and Clare have walked around them. So I just hoping we can do it as well. But it's just, I don't know if we'll be able to get our flow like we did straight away against Waterford on Sunday, like we did against Limerick.
That's a clean sweep for Tip anyway, just about. Sean, on Limerick Cork.
Limerick. I think Limerick are...
Limerick.
Yeah, they're just... the longer they hang around the championship, lads, I think I'd get worried.
Colm, you're on Cork for the surprise. I'll join you.
I'll stick to my guns on Cork, Kevin. I'm not happy that you're also joining me on this, because I know
I rarely get these things wrong now, in fairness. Stephen.
I'm going to go with Limerick. I think there was small facets of Limerick's game and play Sunday that had us in real trouble. But we were able to physically then get back into their face. I don't think Cork can do it physically. They might be able to run Limerick all over the place, which they think they did give them trouble before. But I think Limerick's physicality and skill set is better, and I think they will win it the weekend.
All I think this Munster Championship needs now is just a seminal nationwide moment of gasping when Cork bang in a late goal or something to beat Limerick, knock them out, Twitter goes mad and all the rest of it. Sean, last up on this one.
Limerick, but won't be easy. I think they'll take a few late scores from maybe, but Cork give it all. I think beat Limerick by 2 points there.
Yeah.
What's
down to the Europa League. Sorry?
What's the story with the Tip Club Championship if we get through on...
There's dates out there, but I'd say they're subject to change, aren't they? I think it's all planned on Tip going no further than the semi-final, but
Yeah, divisions are the second week of July, is it?
for the
Yeah,
first.
we
I think the divisions were all to be wrapped up by about the 10th of July or whatever. That's
Were
not
they?
that now, is it?
won't be that early, no,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
well, the lower grade ones, we got word. I'll find it somewhere and I'll send it into the group that Ballingarry and Skeenerinky the quarter final the start of July, and I presume then the following week then it'll be the semi-finals. Following weeks, I'd say there'll be only a week's break between the South final and the county championship.
Yeah, and you might need to throw in a midweek game as well there, just to get things. So you could have for the South championships. A lot of them just have 2 rounds, which is all right. But the 3 rounds ones you might have to play 3 games in 8 days or whatever like that. Say up the north or whatever like that.
But
look, it'd be a nice problem to have.
The one thing is they'll have to be played anyway because they fall into like the rules of running the county championship.
Yeah.
So they're going to be played no matter what. Like they're going to.
To be honest, if teams are anyway savvy this year, they'll have copped on that it's a good safety net there, potentially. So especially with the close teams.
They'll be played anyway, but whether will be played over 2 weekends or 4 weeks, we won't know. Like that's kind of
yeah. Sean, Europa League time. Dublin, Galway.
Galway, boy.
Galway. Kilkenny, Wexford. Any point to?
No, Kilkenny and they'll just be
the big one.
More enough. Wexford have to win. So will they be fighting them? I don't know. It's a strange, but
but it's not like Kilkenny or Man City or anything like that. But it's like a relegation fodder going out needing to beat Man City just because they need to win. Doesn't mean they will. They're in that position for a reason.
Yeah, I think it's probably easy for Wexford to go out and stop Kilkenny than for them to go out and try and hurl a team that they think they're better than. So they surely give it a rattle. They might even one last hurrah and start O'Keefe and all them boys and just try and get something out of it and get a result. But comes down to that last 10 minutes again, and they haven't done it in the last 10 minutes, the last 2 games.
Yeah.
It was probably the last 10-15 minutes where Dublin kind of got overtaken by Kenny as well. They were kind of thereabouts and they just poked off a few points and that was it. Dublin just fell away. But Wexford can keep into them there, they'll have a chance down the home straight.
And you would see any of the shocks in any of the other games, Stephen or Colm, or
I'm gonna give a nod to Wexford. They're playing against. They'll be mad to play Kilkenny. Kilkenny will probably use the panel. And it's do or die for Wexford. I think they will. I think they'll turn up on the day. I'll give them the nod.
Find it hard to care, Kevin, to be honest with you. I'll go Kilkenny because I really back against them. Galway will beat Dublin. I watched Dublin and Kilkenny on Saturday evening. Dublin are a very frustrating team to look at. They've a couple of great hurlers. Your man O'Donnell, the full back, was really good. Donald Burke, we spoke about in the pod before, excellent player. But then they've a couple of really middling hurlers after that. So I just find them a very frustrating team to look at. I'll go Galway there, and the other one is Westmeath and Antrim. Jesus, I don't know. Antrim.
I go for Antrim there. I think they deserve it. They seem to be the steadier team, and I think they need to win that one. And look, at the end of the day, Westmeath only scored 3 points against Wexford in the first half, so they haven't magically become a brilliant team overnight. Big shout out as before we go to the Sarsfields initiative there, the Jersey for Life campaign. Great to see all for the Dylan Cork Foundation. Some great funds raised for that. Great initiative, all the jerseys, a lot of people contributing. So really great to see, and fair play to Liam Cahill and John Kiley as well on Sunday, and all the players highlighting it before the game. We won't pity Wasson during the game as well with the specialised jerseys, but it just shows GA is all about community still, and there is that willingness to kind of help in any way we can. So
yeah, there were some big jerseys went last night. Declan Ryan's jersey went for over 1,200, and so there was some massive fundraising done there, and there's all people bidding. They saw the bids, they were going up by 20 there every couple of hours and I bid on a few of their previous week and didn't win it without bid it. But like, you know, it was a great initiative and fair play to all the lads involved. You know, Connor Stake led that. And, you know, it just shows the drive from GA community as a whole. Like, jerseys come from Donegal and America, and there's Australian as Rose jerseys coming in, and young lads giving in their own college jerseys. Like, you know, so it shows like kind of togetherness and that. But it's a pity that it was touched on a Sunday game that just couldn't wear it on the jerseys the other day during the game. Like, you know, it would have been great for photos of the game. No, a great game. And if you're looking back at it, that was on it. And one of the first biggest games in the stadium since Dylan's passing would be great. But hopefully, GA come around to some sense and laws and come in down the line that might be able to kind of help it there, put on the sleeves of the jersey even or some kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. And hopefully Tipperary County Board will be at the forefront of lobbying for that. Like, you know, I'm listening to the clubs maybe and getting on board with that. Also, big shout out to the Manaw, the Camogie, great win in Munster champions. They're great scenes, I suppose, after and all that. So look, fantastic to see. If we have more time, maybe we'll just engage a bit more with them. I think just in depth on another week. But like, yeah, Jesus, that was a great win there to dominate that final. Big fair play to them. Right, lads, that's it. All done till the next Sunday. So thanks a million all.
Thanks, Kev. Thanks, lads.